there's a moment that changes everything. A moment when, for the first time in months or maybe years, you hear your own voice. Not the narcissist's voice in your head. Not the doubts they planted. Not the criticisms they repeated until you believed them. Your voice. Quiet at first. Uncertain. But unmistakably yours. This is the moment I want to talk about today. Because if you're in it right now, you need to know what it means. You need to know that what you're feeling is real. And you need to know that this is the beginning of everything. The moment often comes unexpectedly. You're in a conversation and suddenly you think, wait, I don't actually agree with this. Or you're about to apologize for something that isn't your fault and you stop yourself. Or you're staring at your phone, reading their message, and instead of that familiar panic, you feel something else. Clarity. A tiny voice that says, this isn't okay. That voice? That's you. The real you. The one who's been buried under their manipulation, under the gaslighting, under the constant erosion of your reality. She's still there, and she's starting to speak up. But here's what nobody tells you about this moment. It's terrifying, because hearing your own voice means you have to acknowledge the truth, that you've been silenced, that you've been controlled, that the relationship you've been fighting to save has been slowly destroying you. And once you hear that truth, you can't unhear it. The fear is still there. Of course it is. You're afraid of their reaction if you set a boundary. You're afraid of being alone. You're afraid you're wrong, that maybe you are too sensitive, too dramatic, too much, like they always said. You're afraid that leaving means admitting defeat. That staying means losing yourself. So the voice whispers at first. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply observes. That hurt. That wasn't fair. I didn't deserve that. I'm not crazy for feeling this way. And those observations? They're revolutionary. Because for so long, you've been letting someone else narrate your reality. They told you what you felt, what you meant, what you should think. They rewrote your memories. They convinced you that your instincts were wrong, that your perception was flawed, that you were the problem. But now you're starting to trust yourself again. Just a little. Just enough to notice the cracks in their version of events. Just enough to remember who you were before them. Before you started editing your words. Before you started walking on eggshells. Before you became small and quiet and accommodating, hoping that if you just tried hard enough, they'd finally see you. Love you. Stop hurting you. This moment, this awakening, it doesn't mean the fear disappears. It doesn't mean you suddenly have all the answers. It doesn't mean you're ready to walk away tomorrow. What it means is that you've taken the first step back to yourself. You're starting to remember that your feelings matter, that your needs are valid, that you're allowed to want more than crumbs of affection and conditional approval. You're starting to see that love shouldn't feel like a test you're constantly failing, that relationships shouldn't leave you questioning your sanity, that you deserve better than someone who makes you feel like you're never enough. Here's what I need you to understand. That voice, your voice, it's going to get stronger. Right now it might be tentative, fragile, easy to ignore when they turn on the charm or make you doubt yourself again. But every time you listen to it, every time you honor it, it grows louder. Start small. Notice when something doesn't feel right. You don't have to act on it yet. Just notice. Name it. That made me uncomfortable. That was manipulative. That was a lie. Acknowledge your own reality, even if you're not ready to defend it out loud. Write things down. Keep a record of what actually happened, not the revised version they'll tell you later. Your memory isn't faulty. You're not being gaslit into clarity. You're being gaslit into confusion. Writing grounds you in truth. Talk to someone outside the relationship. Someone they haven't isolated you from. Someone who knew you before. Let them reflect back to you who you really are. Because you've been living in a funhouse mirror for so long, you've forgotten what you actually look like. And most importantly, be patient with yourself. You didn't lose your voice overnight. You won't get it fully back overnight either. There will be setbacks. Days when you doubt everything again. Moments when their version of reality feels more convincing than your own. That's normal. Abuse rewires your brain. Healing takes time, but you've already done the hardest part. You've started listening. You've heard yourself underneath all the noise. And once you hear it, that voice becomes impossible to silence completely. This is your turning point. This is where you stop abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable. where you stop setting yourself on fire to keep them warm, where you start choosing you. The path back to yourself isn't easy. It's messy and painful and lonely sometimes, but it's also the most important journey you'll ever take. Because on the other side of this fear, on the other side of their voice in your head, is your life. Your real life. The one you deserve. The one where you're not constantly bracing for impact. Where you're not constantly trying to earn love that should be freely given. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not too much or not enough. You're someone who's been hurt. And you're someone who's strong enough to hear your own voice again. To trust it. To follow it home. So listen to that voice. Even when it's quiet. Even when you're scared. Especially when you're scared. Because it knows the truth. And the truth is what will set you free. Thanks for being here. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. Share your moment in the comments. When did you first hear your own voice again? Your story matters. And if you're still waiting for that moment, it's coming. Keep going. We're here with you. Subscribe to keep walking this path together. You deserve to come home to yourself.